Hi there, this is Christian Dye from Latitude West Financial, and today we are talking about best real estate investments in the Fraser Valley. My guest speaker is Jordan Spitters from Eximus Realty. Our topics today are why invest in the Fraser Valley, cash flowing areas to consider, and what is the real estate products that seem to be giving the highest rates of return. So, um, Quick little disclaimer that the information given today is to not promote the buying or not buying of any real estate. This is all for educational purposes only. We advise that you do your own homework, work with professionals, and to put a team in place before you make any decisions. I wanted to quickly pause and quickly talk about what's happening right now. We can't really talk about real estate without talking about what just happened in the mortgage market. So the Bank of Canada raised the rates by a full point on July 13th. So now the prime rate's up at 4.7%. Last month, we were getting variable rates between 4.5 to 5. Now we're getting between 5 and 5.5 for the fixed rate. 2.75 on the variable rate is now 4.25 on the variable rate. So this, of course, is absolutely affecting the real estate market. Now, I've done a lot of research as to say what are analysts predicting. For 2022, they're expecting another full point increase by end of 2022, which would put the prime rate at around 5.7%. And of course, the reason why they're doing this is to slow inflation down. Inflation is at an all-time high at about 8.6%. And Bank of Canada really feels that if they just kind of rip the Band-Aid and really try to get in front of it, it will prevent us from, spiraling even more on the inflationary front. But what this is going to show is an increase in both variable rates and fixed rates moving forward. So, you always want to get pre-qualified if you're thinking of buying a place, just so that you could lock in whatever the best rate happens to be at the time. What's happening with Vancouver, lower mainland real estate market pricing? The average home in Metro Vancouver is now 1.235. Now, this is actually down 2% from the month prior. We're still up on the year compared to last year, but what we do see is the trend is it's starting to slow down. And whenever we take a look at sales to active listings, usually when it's above 20%, that is an indicator that prices are going up. When it's below 12%, it means prices are going down. Now, if you take a look at what's happened since a year ago today, those prices, those numbers, sales to active listings, were high above 20%. But now you realize that they're slowing. You could tell by just the numbers, everything is slowing down. Detached homes are now 14.3%. And remember, any data that I receive is data from a month ago, because whenever we receive this data, it's typically sort of a month late. So what we're finding over here are things are slowing down, and we'll use Jordan's expertise to kind of tell us, which direction he sees the markets going. My role as a financial advisor is to help my clients with their decision making, whether to buy real estate, whether to invest in the stock market. And the uniqueness about my practice is that I help with the real estate decision making as well. So we start off with the first question over here for Jordan, and that is, Jordan, we have people listening who are real estate investors or maybe first-time home buyers. Why invest in the Fraser Valley? Take it away.
Well, I think that the Fraser Valley, Abbotsford and Chilliwack specifically, so that's where I'm based out of. I live, work, and invest here in Abbotsford and Chilliwack. Has some fantastic opportunities. We are located really only about 45 minutes away from downtown Vancouver, so we benefit from having the proximity to downtown. What a lot of people don't actually happen to know is that the Fraser Valley, specifically Abbotsford and Chilliwack, is actually the breadbasket of Canada. The land here has the highest income per acre out of any location in the country. And the agricultural industry here in Abbotsford equates for roughly $2 billion annually, and outpaced the Niagara region a few years back. So whenever I'm looking at investments, food is a pretty secure one, especially as we're going forwards and food security becomes more and more of a talking point. Having a secured investment in a location that has food security, I'd say, is important. What also is interesting about this area is that we have a very large moat around properties, in the sense that over 75% of the land is actually wrapped up in the agricultural land reserve. Because the land here is so arable, very little of it is actually able to be developed. So quite a bit of it is either unable to be developed because it's in the ALR, or it is unable to be developed because of steep slope regulations, because the areas are so mountainous around here. And that means that municipalities have only the option of going inwards and upwards as far as development is concerned. Whereas a lot of other locations, you see a lot more urban sprawl, and developers have more of a choice in order to move further away from city centers to develop. You don't have that here. So a nice large moat around those homes. We have easy access to trade routes on the coast, and easy access down into the States for trade as well. So commercial production does very well here. It's also absolutely gorgeous. We benefit from having proximity to one of the most sought after places to live on the planet. It is Vancouver is quite expensive. I'll be the first one to say that. So when folks are looking for a more affordable option while still having the benefits of that proximity, they're going to be looking at locations a little bit further east, like Abbotsford and Chilliwack.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I own 3 properties in the area myself. I bought them everywhere from, I think, 14 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 years ago. And they've all done really, really well. And I really, really do enjoy the area and all of the things going on. To get into the numbers a little bit, if we take a look at the 10-year appreciation, on Chilliwack, Abbotsford alone, 20% overall, 15% overall. So it's not like it's a one hit wonder, it's a one spike. It's been a very, very, very steady increase. And there's more and more and more things that seem to be happening out there as well, even in terms of the expansion of schools and things of that sort. So I really, really do believe in the Fraser Valley story in terms of, is it a solid investment? Is it going anywhere except for up? And I think when people are looking to invest here in BC, Vancouver itself is very, very expensive, very hard to cash flow. The numbers that I was running with clients were like 40% down payment, 35% down payment just for break even. And that's tough. People want a traditional 20% down payment in order to have an investment. So I think absolutely people should be looking to the Fraser Valley. Now that prices are also cooling quite a bit, might be an absolutely great opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our next question. Cash flowing areas to consider in the Fraser Valley, specifically Abbotsford, Chilliwack. So why don't we start with Abbotsford?
Yeah. So the reason that I typically prefer Abbotsford and Chilliwack, outside of all of the economic fundamentals and drivers and influencers here that make it such a strong prospect, is that the rent to purchase price ratio tends to be the strongest out of any of the municipalities here in the Fraser Valley. So nowhere else are you going to have the same level of ease in cash flowing properties as you would in Abbotsford and Chilliwack, simply because the prices accelerate so quickly as you head further west, closer to Vancouver, but the rent rates typically don't keep up. So for instance, if you're looking at a home in, say, Surrey versus Abbotsford, you're going to be spending anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 for that same apples to apples property in Surrey versus Abbotsford. More so in some situations, whereas the rent is really only increasing a couple $100, few $100. So the ratio is not nearly as strong in Surrey as you're seeing in Abbotsford. So typically I'm looking a little bit further east, still focusing on neighborhoods and great properties close to transportation, close to school, great freeway access. So the fundamentals are still there, but cash flowing them just tend to be a little bit easier out this way.
Got it. And then inside Abbotsford, like I know one of the places that I own is in East Abbotsford, and it's a house.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very well. Property values have done well. And I want it to be close to good schools, and I want it to be close to, so the types of people that would actually buy there, or the renters that would go there are people who are working in the community, whether it be at the hospital. Like, for people who aren't familiar with Abbotsford at all, they don't know east from west or central. Can you tell us a little bit about the areas that you sort of find that, you really like as an investment?
Yeah. So typically I'm looking central and east. That those areas have tended to do quite well. So Abbotsford is kind of a long and narrow city. It is bifurcated by the freeway that runs through the center of it. So there, at every point there is great ease of access for commuting. The University of the Fraser Valley hosts about 14,000 students annually. So it is actually a university town. A lot of people don't realize that. And that is just south of the center of town. So if you're looking at for anything as far as younger tenants or maybe student housing, the center of Abbotsford, south, closer to say Poplar, closer to the freeway there is really good. Whereas when you're looking into say East Abbotsford, it's more family oriented. That's where the high ranking schools tend to be. And the folks that are going to be moving into those neighborhoods, they want to put down roots and stay there for quite a long time. So if you have a nice home in one of those East Abbotsford neighborhoods, you potentially can have long-term tenants that set you up.
Excellent, excellent. Shifting gears a little bit to Chilliwack. So I know that there's some really cool things. There are a bit of a revitalization in the downtown core.
Absolutely.
And I think that is one of the reasons why I kind of got in, the place that I got. I liked the idea of a good building in the downtown core because I knew the 5-year plan several years ago was to really revitalize it, clean it up a little bit, as well as bring in some new things. And now we're sort of seeing it. But what are the areas that you sort of feel are really good opportunities in Chilliwack for the investor?
So right around that kind of downtown Chilliwack proper. So Chilliwack is split in two, where Chilliwack proper is north of the freeway and you've got Sardis south of the freeway. Sardis is, it's got a very Whistler sort of vibe to it. It's very walkable. It feels like you're in the village, but it's expensive. You're going to spend as much as you would there as you would in Abbotsford, maybe even a little bit more, depending on if you're right in, say, Garrison, which is kind of the heart of Sardis. I'm a big fan of downtown Chilliwack, close to that revitalization project. So, from First Avenue down to about Fourth. The home prices historically there have been reasonable. Obviously, they increased over the last little while, but they are starting to come back down again. So, I mean, that's generally where I focus. I've got a few properties myself, all in a row, right within about 5 minutes of Chilliwack's downtown core there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so let's go on to our next question. What products are you find is giving the highest returns? Condos, townhouses, house with suites, multi-units. What do you find is for the investor kind of best bang for your buck?
Yeah. Well, if you can find a what I would call a B property, so if we talk about A through C, right? The A is in the great location. It's got great curb appeal. It looks beautiful. It's that really sexy home, but you're typically going to pay a bit more for that. So if it has a basement suite in that, that's great, but you're going to have a lower internal rate of return there. So a B property would be still a great neighborhood, good price, good bones, but maybe it's not as pretty as the A property. Could use a coat of paint, maybe some freshening up. Those are my favorite, especially in a market like we're starting to see now where prices are coming off. There's a lot more inventory. Those tend to move very, very quickly in hot markets. And if you are an investor that holds a B property, it's a great opportunity to offload in a hot market and then reposition yourself. But now when we've got more options for investors, they've got more opportunity to be a little bit choosier and negotiate really good prices on those. But the thing is that your income on these properties is not much less than you would get on that A property. And you have the opportunity to add value to it by refreshing it, doing the paint, siding, that sort of stuff. So you do have to be a little bit more aware of what's happening in the market when it comes to picking up these properties and offloading them. But in the meantime, you've got a really great opportunity for a healthy return in a B property that you can go into that either has 2 suites in it, an up and a down, or one where you can add value by adding a suite. Typically, B property in say Chilliwack, like this one on Creekside, this one sold for $725. And you're getting great income on that. So this was actually a really good deal at $725. So prices there, you're looking, roughly sevens on the low end and up to about $1 million for kind of a, mid 90s, up to 2000s, 5-bedroom, 2 to 3 bathroom home, generally with a 2-bedroom basement suite down. So those tend to do the best as far as the purchase price to income ratio. If you're looking to spend a little bit more money, and you can get into, maybe the 1.3s, 1.4s, then I would start looking at properties that have 2 suites, so three units total, because then you're going to be, pulling in that additional $1,500-$1,600 a month. So depending on what your price points are, those are the 2 different product types that I would focus on. But the Bs have always done really, really well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I kind of want to echo that. Whenever I do any sort of financial analysis for my clients and I'm encouraging them and they want to buy land, I always say, do a standard, 3-bedroom up, 1-bedroom down, or, 5-bedroom house with a 2-bedroom down, something of that sort. And I just find that you can get the most rent out of it, and this particular property over here was a 3-bedroom up, 1-bedroom down, and it generated great rent. We did an analysis on it. It was cash flowing, down payment off of 20%. Now it's going to be more challenging now because the rates are increasing, but I do think that almost nowhere else in the Lower Mainland can you find a 20% down payment where you are break even or cash flowing. I've tried, I've looked, and especially not in the Metro Vancouver, without almost pulling that Airbnb trigger. But if you just want a standard kind of yearly rental, I still think Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Fraser Valley is the way to go. And I think you're dead on in saying, trying to get a house in that fits this criteria is the best option.
What I love about products like this as well is that you can bring a rental to the market that I think is somewhat lacking. I mean, we really are in a housing crisis here in the Fraser Valley. There is not enough to go around. Our vacancy rates have been as close to zero as they possibly can be for the last 5 years. When we're talking 0.2, 0.3%, like very, very low. We have hundreds and hundreds of employees coming into town for the pipelines, and they're going to be here for 2 or 3 years. They are snatching up all of the kind of higher end rental product, that really premium stuff. But because they're taking it off the market, they're still driving those prices upwards. So by bringing something a little bit more affordable, a little bit more reasonable, I think you're going to be servicing a portion of the marketplace that's currently underserved.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, so what I wanted to do is to talk a little bit. If anybody had any questions, now would be a great time to put them in the chat. Okay. So was there any questions about the Fraser Valley? Was there any questions about any of the products or anything that we've talked about? Put it in the chat. And while people are slowly organizing their questions, I just wanted to talk. I've got several clients listening, but I also have a lot of guests listening as well. And for those guests, my practice is a very traditional financial planning practice where we do, license and insurance and investments, and we do the financial planning. But the part that makes us most unique is the real estate. We have so many real estate investors. And if you're a guest listening right now and you said, oh, I really wanted to try to understand how can I invest more? Should I use my TFSAs, my RSPs? Should I sell something? Should I take a line of credit against something? That's the part where we really, really can help. And so I invite people out there who need some help with some financial planning, which involves real estate, to reach out to us. So here's a question. Are there any good opportunities for condos or townhouses in these areas? So Jordan, I guess because now, price point's a little bit lower. So what do you think, Jordan?
Yeah. So we haven't seen as much of a decline price wise on condos and attached homes, condos and townhomes. And you're right. A lot of it has to do with affordability. As the value of detached comes down and that continues to kind of crush the values, we will see prices come off on townhomes and condos. But so far it hasn't changed too much. If I was going to be looking to invest in an attached property, my focus right now now would be on a one and den, most likely, because you're getting, 80% of the rent that you will on a 2-bedroom, but you're spending 60% of the price, and you're saving quite a bit, not only on insurance, but also on your strata fees, which have gone up a fair amount over the last few years, thanks to the whole insurance thing that we were dealing with there for a little while.
Yeah, and I also find that the one and den, some of those dens are actually pretty big.
Mhm.
You can actually get a decent sized den, and if you're a young family, and you have a young baby, often that den it will be suited. Because I'm shocked at how much the price goes up when you go from a one bed and den to a two bed.
Mhm.
And it's only a little bit more square footage, but the price really, really does jump. But no,
Yeah.
that's a
I
great.
mean, we've got folks looking to get like a halfway decent 2-bed, 2-bath in Abbotsford, 5 years or less. They're asking like $2,400 a month plus for that. Which is just insanity, at least to me. But people are renting it, so it continues to move. But yeah, it's crazy how much it's increased year over year. Whereas a one and den, you're going to be still getting 1850 dependent. I'm going to be focusing on a building that's pretty close to right in the middle of downtown, something very walkable, easy access to transportation. But I don't want to be looking too far afield for something like that. So, staying away from more industrialized areas. I want to see shopping and cafe and gyms right at my fingertips.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of any sort of anything new kind of development or anything we should know about that's going on in that area.
Well, we've had quite a few new buildings that have gone up, Upper Montrose, the Edge. So there's nothing too new that's going to be on the horizon other than, say, the news. So I would be looking more at, say, the buildings now that are a couple of years old, that if you've taken the GST premium off it, there's a little bit less shine, but they're still in a really great location. So that's where I would be focusing on. As far as new projects, there's nothing right now that is super exciting, but I think there's our existing product that make for great opportunities.
When you say new product, are you talking about pre-construction?
Yeah, pre-construction.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, for those of you who are interested, reach out to my team. If you wanted to do some financial planning, reach out to Jordan, his team, if you wanted to do some real estate buying. And one of the things that we specialize on is figuring out what is your next best move with cash flow, with existing assets. We always start with a complimentary discovery meeting. What that means is that if you weren't sure, like if you wanted to explore a little bit more, you want to make your next financial investment, you maybe wanted to do it with real estate, but you're not sure what to do, you're not sure if this is a good idea, take the complimentary discovery meeting, and then we could talk about it to figure out, if it does make sense for you. And what my team and I do is we will go through investment properties, maybe investment properties that you're thinking of, or investment properties that we're coming across, and we will run the analysis for you, and we will figure out if it makes sense for you to invest in this or not. It's such a big decision when you're buying real estate. I always believe in a very, very standard 20% down payment, 4% cap rate, and I want it to break even or cash flow. Very hard to find in the Lower Mainland. So what me and my team, we look in the Lower Mainland, but we also look outside the Lower Mainland. We look in, Northern BC, we look in Alberta, we look in Ontario. And for that investor who is very, very interested, we're able to show them the comparison. What does this look like if we invest your money in RSPs? What does it look like if we invest in real estate? What's the ROI? What's the exit strategy? And a lot of people, that's exactly what they want out of their financial advisor. We do some fancy things like a Monte Carlo analysis to figure out the probabilities of success. So, we're connected with so many different people, not only here in BC, but in other provinces as well. That gives us all of these wonderful deal alerts that tells us when there's an undervalued property that's coming across. And this is the value that we bring to our clients. And some people are at that level where they want to invest more. They want to invest in multi-unit buildings, and we absolutely are able to analyze and provide that for clients as well. So for really, really inexpensive condos, we of course have to go outside. When people sometimes say, I only have $20,000 or $30,000 to invest, I can't start investing in real estate. Unfortunately, you can't in BC, But outside of BC, there are areas that can provide you with some basic real estate condos under 200,000. And then we try to understand, does it make sense to own two properties, or does it make sense to own three properties? And what's the strategy over that time frame of how you would own it? Are you going to save up the down payment? Are you going to take a line of credit against existing properties? Are you going to do a joint venture? Those are all the types of things for real estate investors should be looking at from their financial advisor. And statistically, if you use the correct financial advisor, studies have shown over 15 years, you're almost 3 times more wealthy if you use the right financial advisor who not only provides you with that investment piece, but also with that advice piece. So I guess what I want to do is if there are any other questions, now would be the time to ask. If there are any other questions, now would be the time to ask. Jordan, I guess one question I wanted to throw to you is, you're on the front lines of real estate right now. You're seeing the prices cool. Do you think that they're going to continue to cool throughout the summer and into the end of the year? Or do you think that might just be a blip and then they're going to come back up?
I think it depends on specific markets. I think we're going to have a slow summer. Into the fall, I do expect things to pick up a little bit. Historically, summer and December are our slowest months. And, especially when consumer confidence is a little bit low right now because of all of the doom and gloom that's going on around rates, it generally takes a little while for buyers to kind of wrap their head around the new paradigm. And we haven't quite hit that point yet. So I'm thinking fall is when things will, start to pick up. But coming back to kind of market specifics, there's a lot less inventory in, say, Abbotsford condos than there are in, say, Chilliwack detached. So, I think the prices in Chilliwack detached are going to come down, for at least a while more, probably into the end of the year, depending on what happens with the rates. Whereas Abbotsford condos, they're kind of holding flat. We've maybe seen, a couple points decrease month over month in that product type. So, not as much of a change there. Right now, we do have quite a bit more inventory from the absolute lowest point that we had at the beginning of the year. I mean, Abbotsford detached, for instance, we only had about 85 active homes, whereas right now we're sitting at about 360. But historically, those are pretty average numbers. Those aren't, particularly high. It's just that there aren't a lot of as many buyers currently out. But, those folks still need homes. And frankly, we don't, even though we have more inventory, we still don't have a high level of supply coming online to fulfill the ever increasing population. So I do see the prices coming down, at least for the next few months, but eventually they'll kind of level off, and then we'll stabilize and carry on our merry way.
Yeah, what I've always said is Vancouver real estate is a tricky thing to try to time, so don't try to time it. If you find a deal that you like, if it cash flows, or if it's a home that you really, really like and you could afford it at, whatever current rate it is, usually you tend to buy it. I've been investing for over 20 years, and I've been caught in those scenarios where, you come across something and you think, you know what, it's not perfect. It ticks a lot of the boxes, but I'll wait. Me waiting ends up costing me tens of thousands of dollars. Or you come across something, you said, market's trending down, I'm not going to buy anything. Then the market's almost bottomed out. It's like, I'm totally ready to buy. There's nothing to buy.
Yeah.
The market is at its lowest point, or it's smoking good deals, but everything on the market is crap. And there's absolutely nothing to buy. And then all of a sudden, when things start to pick up and all of these things start coming onto the market, well, now everything starts to push back up. So I kind of am somebody who's been investing in real estate, advising clients to invest in real estate a long time. If you're an active investor, keep looking. If you find something that you like, is at the right price point, then you should get it. Because trying to time things is a very, very dangerous game over here. But I kind of feel that things are going to slow down. I think the people that don't have to sell are going to pull their product off, because it's a hard pill to swallow when it's $100,000 or $200,000 less than what they could have got 3 months ago, and then they said, well, why don't I take my chance and relist it next year, and then let's see where the market's at. So yeah. I kind of think that I think there's going to be opportunities. I think if somebody's left on the market, somebody's got to sell. I think that classic scenario is someone has bought but they haven't sold. They have got bridge financing, and they're getting, and rates are increasing, and they pretty much can't take the pain anymore. They're going into month 3 of bridge financing, and they got to sell it. And you come in with a fair but good offer. There could be some deals to be had.
Mhm. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, we've been seeing some sales happen looking like what I would typically call a stressed seller. Dropping the price significantly. 30 days, dropping another 10%, 30 days, 10% to really find that buyer. Whereas the majority of homes sitting on the market, there's 60 plus days on the market. They haven't done any changes, which says to me it's, opportunistic sellers that were trying to get as much money out of it, but they're not particularly motivated. And you're right. I do expect to see quite a few of those homes leave the market, either expire or terminate, and inventory will decrease. Buyers will eventually kind of get back into it, and things will carry on. But yeah, you're right. We'll continue to see the drops, but there's no way to know exactly where that bottom is. So to pass on opportunities because you think that you're going to maybe save a little bit of money next month, I don't think is the right call.
Yeah. So, as we wrap up over here, absolutely, for those listening, reach out to Jordan. If you want an expert in the Fraser Valley who knows basically all the regions, all of the products, and by all means, reach out to myself for financial advising. The stock market is down 17%. Latitude West, our core portfolio, is up 3%. 3% in a down market is actually pretty fantastic. But what we want to do is you want to basically work with the right team, work with a team with the right focus. If you are a real estate focused investor, you want to work with a real estate focused financial advisor. And if you are a real estate focused, then you want to work with the right accountant, the right lawyer, and you want to build a team, especially if you're serious about investing. Jordan and his team, I've been very, very impressed with. And I thank you, Jordan, for giving us your expertise, and as well as, sharing with my clients various different opportunities as well as even giving me personal advice on my properties out in the Fraser Valley, which, I always appreciate. But with that, I'll let you guys go. It's been fantastic. I am going to give the recorded link to everyone who has registered, whether you've been on the live webinar or not. If you do receive the recorded link, by all means, forward it on to a friend. Let them listen to it to allow them to understand this information. But with that, Jordan, I wish you a good day, and everyone else, I hope you also have one. But we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much.